What's up YouTube? This is Ishan and today I'm going to talk about my past IELTS experiences and give you some helpful tips to pass the IELTS exam and get the scores that you deserve. So stay tuned. To give you a little bit of background about myself, I came to Canada the same way that a lot other immigrants do. I came here in 2016 as a student to pursue my master's. Then I graduated, got the work permit, and applied for permanent residency eventually. In total, I have taken IELTS exam 3 times, among which one was the IELTS academic exam and the 2 others were the IELTS general. The first general exam I took was when I first became eligible to apply permanent residency, but I delayed the plan for applying to it and then applied last year in 2020. This time, I already submitted my file in the pool and got the ITA, and after getting the ITA, my IELTS scores expired. So I had to redo the IELTS exam and at least get the same scores as I did before. The next available exam date was in 10 days, and that was the only option available to me. So I decided to book it and start preparing it while I was working a 9-to-5 job. The main idea behind making this video is to share you some challenges that I faced and some tips that shows you on how to prepare for the IELTS exam in a short duration. In my opinion, IELTS exam is not only about English language skills, it is also about the mathematics behind how you score and what you need to perform in the exam to get the desired scores. Now moving on to the strategy that I used, the first thing I did was to perform initial analysis on where I stood at that time. So I took an IELTS exam at home as if I were in the exam hall to figure out what scores I got and what my current skills were. In my case, I already knew on how much IELTS bands I required. Now, let's take a look at the steps one should follow while preparing for the examination. The first step is to try to figure out where you currently stand by taking an IELTS examination all by yourself. The most challenging part of this step is that you will have to analyze your own self in the writing and speaking parts of the exam. The second step is to go through the CIC website and play around with the CRS points calculator and see on how many IELTS bands you would require to be eligible. On your screen, you should now see the bands to score conversion out of 40 for the listening and reading modules. You should also see the band descriptors for writing and speaking sections. So just go through those and try to figure out what you need and what is expected. The next step is to sharpen your axe before cutting down the tree. So collect all the resources that you will need for the preparation of the IELTS exam. Down in the description section, I'm going to provide you some links to the useful video tutorials on YouTube that I personally followed. I'm also going to link some websites where there are free practice tests available which you can use while preparing for your IELTS exam. The fourth step is to start practicing for the exam. The only motto behind practicing should be improvement. One mistake that I did in my previous attempts towards the IELTS exam was I focused only on the practicing part of it and not so much on the improvement part. So keep that in mind. The fifth and the final step is to track your progress. Go through the tests that you're doing and try to see on how much more work is required. This goes in each section. I personally found out that I really wanted to work on my writing skills as I needed to improve a lot for the desired scores. Analyzing the speaking and writing part becomes really easy if you have a friend or colleague that either took the tests already or they are preparing for the test while you are. Now let's move on to some section-wise tips that you should find useful. After analyzing your listening performance, try to commit yourself to perform some number of tests every day. I used to do 2 tests as I only had very limited time to prepare for the exam. After you are done with a listening test, just don't mark yourself and then move to the next one. Try to go through your answer sheet and compare what went wrong. What is the section that you are performing the most mistakes in? For me, it was section 3 and 4. Section 3 was really confusing to me as it had multiple people talking and there were a bunch of MCQs.
So
try to find out the section that you struggle the most and then try to dedicate some more time towards that particular type of questions. An important tip is to not spend too much time if you miss a question, because it is okay to miss one question rather than to wait for it too long and then miss the following questions as well. So keep that in mind, because I used to do that all the time. I did not have a habit of reading, so I found the reading tests really annoying and I tried to complete them when I was fresh early in the morning. I used to do one test every day so that I can improve gradually. One strange tip is to do the academic reading practice tests. This is because I find that they are a little more challenging than the general type of exam. And they also made me really comfortable with the reading tests. The last tip is to figure out the type of questions that you find really challenging. For me, it was those title heading kind of questions which I was supposed to answer, and I probably got most of them wrong in the beginning. And then I used to practice more of those questions so that I became more comfortable. Considering the writing section, it is very important to make a note of the type of test you are taking. I took the computer-based test, so I used to practice the exam in a Microsoft Office or Notepad. So make sure that you practice in the right format that you are going to appear in the exam. A very important tip with the writing section is to make sure that your essays and letters are of appropriate length. By this I mean that you use at least the minimum number of required words in your essays and letters. I know this one sounds really obvious, but trust me, it's very easy to miss out. I have lost some marks for writing under 150 words in the letter in my previous attempt of IELTS exam. Even before you start doing some practice tests, try to read some model essays and letters online. This will help you with two things. First, it will help you to try to get ideas about the recent topics. And second, it will help you understanding the format that is usually required in the exam. I used to have printouts of phrasal verbs, idioms, and phrases at my desk. I prefer those while I used to take the exam and try to use those in my tests. It is okay to cheat. The only rule is to complete the test in time. This way, you will get used to using those words in the exam. On your screen, you should see all the sentence types that you must use in your writing exam. It is okay to use as many as you can in the letter, but try to use all of those in the essay. I used to copy the writing content from the Notepad file to online website and check my grammatical errors and some silly mistakes in the spellings. You can do so, and then once you are done with the silly mistakes, you should get the answers reviewed by a friend or a colleague that are really good at English language. Try to get a feedback about where you lag and then improve yourself by rewriting the whole essay or letter again. While doing so, you will become aware of the mistakes that you did in the exam so that you can keep those in mind for the further practice tests. Moving on the speaking section, from all my past experiences, I came to know that the speaking test completes way sooner than we anticipate. So please keep in mind that every second counts after the recording begins. Even before starting the speaking practice, try to go on YouTube and try to find some model speaking tests to become familiar with the format. The first part of the speaking test is going to be a lot of questions about your background. So try to practice those common questions available on the internet about yourself. A tip to practice the part 2 and 3 of the exam is to grab a random topic of the internet with its follow-up questions. Then give yourself a minute to think about the ideas on the topic and write those down. Then start speaking for 2 minutes on that topic. Also, make sure that you record while you are speaking. And once you're done speaking, go through the follow-up questions and also record them so that you can refer them later. One thing that the recordings did help me figure out was that I was using a lot of sounds while speaking. So then I started taking pauses when I was about to speak an sound. I could not stress enough on this one. It is very, very important to check out the recent topics in the writing and speaking exams. This will really help you in brainstorming the ideas on those topics, so you don't have to think much if one of those appeared in the exam. Now let's discuss on how I prepared myself for the exam day. I did one listening test in the morning. I did not do any reading tests to avoid draining myself on the exam day. Instead, I went through some model speaking tests on YouTube and ideally written letters and essays. One bonus tip for the exam day is to go through several recent topics in speaking and writing. Then try to brainstorm ideas on those as if they showed up in the exam. And if you're lucky enough, trust me, one of those will show up, as it happened with me in my previous IELTS exam. That's all for today, and I hope that those tips really help you in your IELTS exam preparation. If you have some tips that you think I missed, please share in the comments section. And if you did enjoy the content, please share a like, as it will help motivate me in creating more content like this. I hope you have a great rest of your day ahead, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.